Greetings everyone, it's Rob from CH Tower Games, and we are back with another Marvel Champions video, and this time with the newest hero to join the Marvel Champions universe, Venom, aka Flash Thompson. This is not the Eddie Brock version of Venom, this is a different one. This one is more connected to the Guardians of the Galaxy, hence why it is in this particular cycle. So let's get right into the cards. He has 4 recovery, 6 hand size, 12 hit points. His traits are soldier, and he can control 1 additional upgrade that has the restricted keyword. His setup ability is armed and ready. Discard cards from the top of your deck until you discard a weapon upgrade. Then add that card to your hand. So he goes through, he's going to get himself a weapon guaranteed at the beginning of the game. He is all about weapons. He has a lot of different weapons in his deck, which we'll see as we go through them. This ability is a bit dangerous because depending on the RNG, you may chunk a good part of your deck out. It does not say you reshuffle it, so I'm assuming any cards you discard stay discarded. In his hero form, he has 1 Thor, 2 attack, 2 defense. He's a Guardian and a Space Knight. Same control ability, but his other ability is Symbiotic Bond. Take 1 damage and generate a wild resource. So at a cost of his life, he can create a wild resource, which is very cool as it kind of brings me back to those old school, kind of like how Black used to play in Magic the Gathering, where you use your health points as a resource. So you have to find that balance between using your health and not going too low that an attack might kill you or something of that sort. Stat line is pretty okay. I mean, not amazing, but I think a pretty solid stat line. Let's see some of his cards now. So we have 2 cost event behind enemy lines. It's hero action thwart. Remove 3 threat from the scheme. If you pay for this card using only mental resources, confuse an enemy. So it's a possible 2 for 3 plus a confuse if you use only mental, and obviously using his ability as a wild, you can use that to give yourself one of the mentals that you need. So, and you can see there's a few of these different cards. So I think playing this, you probably want to do this only for the confuse. 2 for 3 on its own isn't that really great. It's kind of like a 4 justice basically at that point. But with the confuse, it makes this card really good. And we have 2 of those. Next one we have is Grasping Tendrils. This is another solid card. 2 cost event. It's a defense one. When the villain initiates an attack against you, cancel the attack. If you pay for this card using only physical resources, stun the villain. So, similar to how behind enemy lines confuse them, this one will stun if you use only physical resources. Either way, it still cancels the attack. So it's basically a 2 for backflip or 2 for nullify and attack. That alone is pretty powerful. Costing a stun on top of that makes it also a really strong card. This is definitely, I think, a good card to really help lock down the boss because it cancels the attack against you and essentially will stun the villain, so it cancels his next attack as well. So it's a 2 cost to essentially get rid of 2 attacks, which is almost like a webbed up really at that point. Next one we have is Locked and Loaded, the 0 cost event. Search your deck for a weapon and add it to your hand. Shuffle your deck. Simple enough, get one of those weapons that you need. His deck does come with, I believe, 4 or 5 different weapons in it as pre-constructed, but obviously there's more in the game already. So getting that specific weapon you need for that situation, you can get it right here. Nothing else to really say about this card. Run and Gun. This is, I think, a really powerful card. 3 cost event. It readies Venom and each weapon you control. Now remember, he can control multiple weapons, 3 weapons, possibly even more. Being able to ready all of them and yourself, and you can pretty much do double of everything that you've been doing that turn. So that's potentially a really powerful card, and we can see by the fact that we get 3 copies of Run and Gun in our deck. Savage Attack, 2-cost event but deal 5 damage. If you used only energy resources, it's overkill. This one on its own is not the most exciting card, probably. 2 for 5 is okay. After that, 2 for 5, 3 for 8 seems to be kind of the general feels. Like there's Venom Blasts, there's Heroic Strike, I think is 2 for 6. Similar, like those kind of 5-6 numbers seems to be the sweet spot. Adding Overkill helps a lot because it can help go through a minion. Overall, it's a good damage card. Can't really say much about it. Overkill helps if you need it. Otherwise, this is one of the 3 variants that we've seen that you probably don't need to be so concerned about proccing the Overkill every time. Project Rebirth 2.0 is a support. You exhaust it, it's an alter ego action to support. You can choose to either draw 1 card or heal 3 damage from Flash. So, as we kind of saw, he uses his health as a resource, really. So, by healing himself up with a 3, plus his natural recovery, that's 7 recovery, so that can get him right back into the game much quicker than normal. Or, if you don't need the help, you can draw a card from it. So, it still has the use, even if you don't need the help, which is really good. So that is, I think, might be a card to really help keep the Venom engine going. Multi-gun, the first gun that we've seen, restricted, 3 cost. Exhausted to choose to do one of the following: deal 2 damage to an enemy, choose the player, deal 1 damage to each minion engaged with that player, or remove 2 threat from the scheme. So it's a gun that can do a bit of everything. 2 damage, 2 threat, nice little ping of something. The 1 damage to all minions engaged with someone is a good way to deal with like Ultron, or deal with quite a bit of like maybe Tufts or Swarms. It can also be good if you combine it with like a Rocket Raccoon to set up a bunch of minions and then have Rocket finish them off with like a rocket launcher possibly as well. So you can see that's a way to do a bunch of AoE damage. Spider Sense. This is an upgrade. 2 cost upgrade. When the villain initiates an attack against you, draw 1 card. So basically, it's Spider-Man's ability as a card. There's no limit. Same thing like Spider-Man's. It kind of makes sense because Venom has a lot of connections to Spider-Man. So having this kind of card here is a really solid card because drawing more cards will definitely help you, especially trying to pay for some of those specific resource types. Venom's Pistol. Attack weapon. 1 cost. When you use one of Venom's basic powers, exhaust the pistol, Venom gets a +1 to that power for this use. And he has 2 of them. So you can take your 1 thwart to a 3 thwart, or your 2 attack to a 4 attack. More importantly, you can even do it on defense to make your 2 defense a 4 defense as well. So basically a 3-4-4. Which you can see combine this with Run and Gun allows you to ready yourself, ready these pistols again. It's an interesting way to kind of use the pistols, not do damage to something, but instead just increase your own personal stats. I will also bring back to Venom. Keep in mind for his ability, take 1 damage to generate a resource, you have to pay the cost for this ability. It came up, I think, with She-Hulk back in the day when we had Focused Rage. You can't prevent the damage from like an energy barrier or something like that. You have to pay the 1 damage to actually get the money from it. Keep that in mind for those that may not have been familiar with that rule. Because of the way it says it with the arrow pointing that way, you have to do the first part to get the second part no matter what. And those are his signature cards for his pool. Overall, looking at his cards, His all thwarts and attacks. He doesn't have anything that really connects to his traits, so there's no need for like a death focus or like a team building exercise. Neither of those would really help his signature cards that much. He does come with the justice aspect, so let's take a look at the justice cards and kind of see what cards we get from there. So the first one is an ally, Jack Flag. 4-cost ally, 2 thwart, 1 attack, 3 health. When he thwarts, place an ammo counter on him. And then as a hero action, you can exhaust him to remove a counter and deal 2 damage. So the way it works is he'll thwart for 2, get a counter. Next turn, exhaust, deal 2 damage. Next turn, thwart for 2, get a counter. Next turn, attack for 2. So he can basically do 4 thwart, 4 attack, and the block. That's a lot. Bit of an interesting character. I think it sounds fun. I'll have to see how it works in practice, if it's slow or not slow. The good thing is as well that technically you can even go thwart, get 2 counters, and then keep him there to ding 2 damage off somebody. So he's a pretty new character. He's kind of fun. Again, I gotta see how he plays in practice and see if he's fast enough or if he is too slow to really have much of an effect. Another card we get is Scare Tactic. 1-cost event, deal 3 damage to a confused enemy. Now you can see how this plays in with like behind enemy lines that makes them confused. So then you can set them up with the confused, and then you hit Scare Tactic to deal 3 damage on top of that. You also have other cards, we'll see in a bit, the Sonic Pistol, which can confuse the enemy. So if you have a good amount of ways to confuse the enemy, which I believe Justice does have a good amount, this can be an easy 1 for 3, which is pretty good. It's cheap, and it's effective to do a good amount of damage. Making an Entrance, I think, is a really good card as well. 1-cost interrupt. When your hero makes a basic thwart, it gets a +2 to that thwart. After that thwart ends, if your hero has removed all the threat from a scheme, heal 2 damage from your hero. So you can see, combine this with the pistols, it means he's thwarting for 5, which is a good chunk. And you heal 2 if you manage to get off like a side scheme or the main scheme. So you can heal yourself, which means you don't have to flip down as much because you've been healing yourself. My mind automatically jumps to, say, Captain America, Justice. Spider-Woman, Justice. Captain America, with fearless determinations and all that, he can easily pop this, heal himself up so he doesn't have to go down. Spider-Woman will get a +1 from her ability, plus +2. That's a 4 no matter what else is there. And she can heal herself from this, which helps her as well. But those are two heroes I think this card really works really good for. And I think this card probably will see a bit more play than Scare Tactics. Because Scare Tactics is much more dependent on if you actually have ways to confuse. With this one, just being able to get, 2 thwart and heal 2, I think is really powerful. Power of Justice, we've already seen. Sonic Rifle, 3-cost upgrade, 2 uses. Keep in mind it does discard after the 2 uses. Exhaust it to remove a counter, confuse an enemy, or deal 3 damage to the enemy if it's already confused. I think the damage part is probably less important. I think it's more important to use it to confuse an enemy. That has more value in my opinion. Combine that with Scare Tactics though, you can now see you have the rifle, confuse, and then you ping from 1 to do 3 damage on top of that. This is also a weapon and a tech weapon, so this can also see play in like Rocket Raccoon Justice decks. Gives him a Justice weapon to kind of use on top of his other weapons. And he does have a high thwart, so he can use making an entrance as well. Combining all these different things, I think This weapon will probably see play in Justice Rocket Raccoon decks, and it could be used in Justice Venom decks just to confuse the enemy. And then we have the basic ally, Star-Lord. 2-cost ally, 2 threat, 2 attack, 3 health. He gains ranged, and when he enters play, you give yourself 1 face down encounter card. I'll be honest with this card. I think this is a really bad card. I don't really see why you would ever play this unless you were doing like a Guardian themed deck and you needed Guardian allies. Otherwise, he's not worth it. 2 for 2 attack, 2 thwart, just 2 for 4 basically, and a block. But all he does is he gives you an encounter card. Yeah, he has range, so he can deal with retaliate. But other than that, he's not that exciting. There's other ones that I think that are better. Gamora could be better. Rocket's better. Groot. There's quite a few other that I think is a lot better than this Star-Lord card. I see what they were going for, trying to capture the essence of like Star-Lord's playstyle. But I don't see why you would ever need to give yourself an extra encounter card when the value isn't there. Compare this to like a Sentry, the aggression ally, who gives yourself an encounter card, but he has a 3 attack at least, so he at least is doing a bit more damage than normal. His stat line does not, in my opinion, support his abilities. We have, of course, our basic energy cards. Resourceful is a card that we do already have in the game. It makes sense why he would have it in his pre-constructed deck. This card to give yourself a wild resource. Personally, I am not a fan of these particular cards. I'm kind of as a waste of spots. If you really need that resource, that wild one, I guess. But there's probably better things you can put in that deck. Side Holster is a card that I've been really excited for. 0 cost upgrade, play on any player's control. You can control 1 additional weapon upgrade that has the restricted keyword. So right away, that plus Venom's ability means he can have 4 weapons out in play. That's impressive. But the picture may give you quite a big hint. This is a really good card for Rocket. Giving him a side holster allows him to have rocket launcher, plasma cannon, and one of his pistols out all at the same time. He can ping for 2. He can AoE with his rocket launcher and then heavy damage with his plasma cannon. And you don't have to like have that decision of which one do you play. You can have at least 3 of them out. That's really powerful. Another person this could be useful for is Drax. Drax, if you want to play him with additional weapons, obviously he has other knife. You can give him a 3rd weapon. You know, it could be something like a God Slayer. It could be one of these pistols. Hand cannon is another one that could be used for him. So he could have benefit from that as well. But I think those are the main ones. Thor could as well, but you probably aren't using any more weapons besides 2 with Thor anyway. Otherwise, I think Rocket, Venom definitely, and Drax may be the 3 that jump to mind that could use this card effectively. Plasma Pistol. I've seen some talk about this online. The 2 cost upgrade weapon, 3 uses, it's restricted. Exhausted to remove 1 counter to deal 1 damage. So essentially it does 3 pings of 1 damage. This is not that effective. It can pop tufts off. It can maybe deal with like shields or something along those ways. Other than that, I don't see the 2 for 3, which comes with individual ones. Seems like a lot of unnecessary work. You could probably use that card to do something more effective than 2 for 1. 2 for 3 individual ones. I just don't think it's that effective of a pistol. If you need a weapon, possibly. There may be some scenarios that it could be really useful to have that 1 damage ping. Otherwise, for the most part, this pistol probably won't see that much play. Now with that, we'll hop over to his Nemesis set, which is quite interesting as well. For his Nemesis set, we have Struggle for Control, his obligation. You may flip down as usual. Exhaust him and take 2 damage. Discard this obligation. So keep in mind, this says discard. You cannot remove it from the game. It stays in the game forever. Or put 1 set-aside copy of Enraged Symbiote into play. If you cannot, discard Gain Surge. Discard. So if the Nemesis set has already come in, discard Surges if you pick that one. Otherwise, you take 2 damage, which is, as you can see, a bit dangerous because you're playing with your health full as is. So you either Surge or you take 2 damage from it. The side scheme, which I know comes off a bit weird on the display, is Clintar Frenzy. It's a 2 per player thwart scheme. Comes with an extra boost card. And threat cannot be removed from this scheme while a symbiote enemy is in play. Which, as we'll see, is the rest of his set. So there are 4 copies of Enraged Symbiote in his Nemesis set. They are 1 cost scheme, so 1 scheme, 2 attack, 2 health minion that has guard and patrol, and they have a boost ability that they come into play with you. So they are these little small minions that block, just kind of get in your way. They guard, they patrol, they stop you from engaging with the villain. You kind of have to deal with them first. 2 health isn't a lot, so you can quickly deal with them, but they're a little bit nuisance, and there's 4 of them, so they may kind of clog you up at the worst times. And it's a pretty cool mechanic for a way to kind of have a Nemesis, because they don't have like a big beefy Nemesis. It's more of a bunch of these small little symbiotes kind of coming out. So pretty cool. I think it's a cool way to handle like a Venom-like minion. And the last thing I will bring up for us are the cards that kind of come for the other aspects. And this one is one that I've been excited about. The 2-cost Fusillade. It's a 2-cost event. Exhaust a weapon, deal 5 damage to an enemy. 2 for 5, like we kind of mentioned before, with Savage Attack is a pretty good number, same with this one. But exhausting a weapon means you don't have to use that weapon, and if it's more worth it, it's better. Right away, my mind jumps to weapons that don't need to exhaust ever. So we look at Drax's Knife, don't need to exhaust. So if you're playing Drax Aggression, this is good for him. Thor. You play Fusillade with Thor, exhaust Mjolnir, deal 5 damage, and you swing for Thor for 3. That's 8 damage. So it's essentially a hammer throw without having to pay 1 more and bounce the hammer back to your hand. That's pretty good, I think. You can also use it for rocket aggression. Keep in mind, rockets weapons, if they don't have the uses, they don't get discarded. So even if it has no charges, you could still use it to deal 5 damage with it. So you can see there's quite a few uses for this card. I think this is going to be a solid card for aggression decks that are built around weapons or heroes that use weapons. The leadership card is Welcome Aboard. Only for Guardians. 0-cost event. Reduce the resource cost of the next ally play this phase by 2. Now keep in mind, this says next ally play this phase. It does not mean it has to be done by you. It can be done by other players in the group. If you don't have an ally, you could help your teammates play their allies with it. It's an okay card. Again, situational depending on how many allies and if it's worth it. Otherwise, I could see you using this in like a Star-Lord deck to get some of those high-cost Nova Primes out and the like. Combining Star-Lord's ability plus his Welcome Aboard card will give you almost a free ally. And then the protection card is Shake It Off. It's a 1-cost event. After a Guardian character takes any amount of damage, give it a tough status. This is a strange one because you have to really time this well. Because you figure if the villain triggers this, give yourself a tough status. As long as there's no minions, then you're good for next turn because you have a tough. But if there's a minion, that minion will just pop the tough off for you. Now, if there is a minion, you can use Shake It Off on the minion's attack to give yourself a tough that prepares you for the next villain attack. This also is another way if sometimes you have some villains that can attack multiple times in a round depending on the encounter cards. So it's a way to kind of deal with that. I think it's an okay card. Again, it's Guardian specific. Otherwise, I mean, again, if you're playing a Guardian theme deck, it might work. I think there are better ways to play protection than with this kind of playstyle, in my opinion. And then lastly is Crew Quarters, 1-cost support. Exhausted to heal 1 damage from an alter ego. Now, the interesting about this is it doesn't technically have to be you. It's from an alter ego, so you could use it on your teammates. You must be an alter ego though, but at least someone has to be. This card I think will only be useful for heroes that have multiple times where they have to flip down. Basically, you're looking to flip down a lot to help you. If you're a hero who doesn't flip down that much, and maybe you stay in hero mode a lot more often than not, you may not get as much benefit from this. It may be more useful to be used like a downtime or an endurance than have this. So otherwise, it's an okay card. Now, with all that, what do we think about Venom? I've heard really powerful things about Venom. I've heard that he's definitely high tier, and I can see why. Its ability to confuse, if you build a deck properly, you can probably confuse or keep the villains locked down between his confuse and stuns. Depending on the aspect, adding a few more cards like that, you could keep the villain pretty much locked down, and he can do damage between Savage Attack, his abilities, to kind of grind through anything else. I definitely see him being a higher tier villain, higher tier hero. And I think that he's a cool little way to play Venom, especially because when he was first announced, I really wasn't thrilled about this kind of version of Venom. You know, most of us are probably more used to the classic, like Eddie Brock type Venom. But this one is pretty cool, I have to say. So, what kind of decks have you guys been building with Venom? Let me know. I'm gonna post it down in the comments below. And thank you guys for watching this review. Be sure to follow the channel and subscribe for any more additional Marvel Champions content that we will have. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this review of the Venom Marvel Pack. Thank you.